Okay, I'm going to skip the usual preamble and just get straight into it. So, here's where we're at the moment. Basically, the situation looks like this. Every business has been impacted by this crazy virus, COVID-19, in some way. And a lot of people either need help or want to help in some way. I personally have heard from loads of friends, people worried about going out of business, or people who are saying, what can I do to make a difference? Now, there are a couple of complications that come along with that situation. The first of which, really quite simply, is that everyone is facing different challenges on a different scale or on different kind of aspects of their business. So we're all facing completely different challenges in addressing this situation. And along with that, it basically means that there aren't any straightforward solutions. There isn't anything that you can recommend as a kind of generalist thing to do to help you or to help your customers or to contribute. So what we really need to do instead, first of all, you can't just kind of go into lettuce mode and be kind of passive and throw your hands up in the air and do nothing. And you can't panic either. The thing that you've really got to do is apply some kind of clear-headed analysis to the situation and figure it out. And to do that, what you really need is a structured way that you can think through exactly what the situation is and how best to respond to that. Now, we spent 5 years researching and creating a tool, a model to help people do that. It's called The Grid. It's a book that was published a couple of years ago by Random House as well. This is my battered, kind of hammered copy. I use it pretty much every day. And what the model does is it allows you to see your business as an interconnected whole, where you can do a very kind of thorough analysis, identify the kind of root causes of your problems, and it does that by presenting all the factors that determine the success of your business on a single page. So that's the grid. The grid is the model that we're going to talk through today, and I'm just going to explain to you really quickly how it works. It's really, really simple. Basically, every business needs to pursue 3 distinct but interrelated goals in order to thrive. So the first one is desirability. Obviously, people have got to want what we're selling or making, or we've got a fundamental problem. Second is profitability. If it costs us more to make than it does to sell, eventually, we're going to run out of money. So we've got desirability and profitability. And the third one is longevity. The longer we're making that profit for, the better, obviously, and there's no point in making a ton of money in the short term if we go out of business in a hurry because we haven't thought about the long term. So our major strategic decisions are basically making trade-offs between these 3 things or trying to raise them all. That's what we're trying to do. Now, what makes that challenging in practice is that we've got to take a lot of factors into consideration in doing that. And there are really 3 big ones, right? You've got the customer, who they are and what they want. We've got the specific conditions that relate to our market. And we've also got our own organization, which will have strengths and constraints and limitations and resources and that kind of thing. Now, here's where we get into really talking about the grid, because a business, quite simply, is an interconnected whole, right? Any one of these kind of change layers that we're talking about here can affect any one of our goals. So what we actually end up with is these 3 goals, these 3 ways of changing, and a grid of 9 factors that you can see here, which together determine the success or failure, perhaps, of every single business. So what are they? Well, what customers find desirable depends entirely on their wants and needs. Fairly obvious. When it comes to satisfying those wants and needs, there will be other people in the market attempting to do the same. That's the rivalry that we face. And then, of course, we've got to create some kind of offering, a product or service that we bring to market that aims to satisfy those wants and needs better than the rivals. So what you see in business, sometimes we can keep our offering exactly the same. And if one of our rivals does something stupid, they get caught up in a scandal, for example, we become more desirable without doing anything. Of course, if wants and needs change and we don't respond with our offering, desirability is going to go down. Okay, really simple. Looking at the next column, customers give us revenues, our organization incurs costs, really quite simple there. But we also have a market force in the middle, which is bargaining power. our business is sandwiched between our suppliers and our customers, and whoever has the strongest negotiating position in that relationship is going to be able to capture the lion's share of the whole ecosystem or value system that they're a part of. So bargaining power can be a really big one. When it comes to longevity, we've got another three things. The first is basically the size and commitment of our customer base. If we've got a huge captive customer base that kind of can't go anywhere, obviously our long-term prospects look really good. The ease with which other people, other rivals or would-be competitors can copy what we're doing can have a profound impact on our longevity. If we've got something protected by a patent or whatever, and nobody else can copy us, then as long as there's good demand for that, we're kind of going to be printing money for the foreseeable future. And then the last one, a huge one, which we're really seeing a kind of crisis around at the moment with this virus, is adaptability. Ultimately, all bets are off if we can't change, because many of these things are going to be changing. They're going to be out of our control. And if we can't respond to that change, then we're going to be in trouble. So a couple of really very basic conclusions just at this point to help you kind of get your head around this. First, every single one of these boxes matters. Some of the reasons that startups fail is that they think about maybe 4 of these and they forget about the others. You can go out of business because you overplay certain strengths, like you become fixated on revenue or you become fixated on cost control, but at the expense of maybe developing a really desirable offering or taking care of your customer base or that kind of thing. So that kind of brings me on to the second major conclusion, and this is really important for anyone who's looking for a way to respond to this COVID situation, is that a change in any one of these boxes that you see here, sorry, I'm kind of waving at the screen with my hands as if I've got people here, but I haven't. I've just got the webcam and my mouse, so I apologize. A change in any one of these boxes is always going to cause a change to one of the others. So, really simple example. Businesses in the past have thought, we can become a lot more profitable if we just cut our costs. But they do it in such a way that it ends up compromising the strength of their offering, their product or service. Maybe quality takes a nosedive. Customers ain't too happy about that, and they spend less. So you actually cost cut your way into a less profitable business, right? Now, here's the big implication when it comes to figuring out how to respond to this very volatile situation that we're in at the moment. What you really need to do is have a coordinated response that really considers all of these different boxes or thinks about what problems you might be facing or your response in light of all of these. Now, in order to make the grid as pragmatic and actionable and straightforward as possible, what we really need to do is layer in another level of detail. And the reason this took so long to create was because we were really trying to get it down to the smallest number of factors possible in each of these boxes. And we arrived at 3 within each. Now, before you go, whoa, that got out of hand quickly, I just want you to look at these and realize that the strength of the grid is not introducing new concepts, it's arranging them in a way that makes them accessible. And you probably already know all these things, right? So just to reassure you, if we look at this revenues box up here, obviously your revenues are determined by your revenue model. Is it a fixed price? Is it a subscription, pay as you go, whatever? The price you charge and the number you sell. There's nothing clever there. If we want to grow our customer base, people need to know we exist. They can't buy something if they don't know it exists, so that's awareness. Awareness should lead to us acquiring new customers, and then we want to keep them. Really simple. In terms of our offering, we've got our proposition. What is the kind of concept or product or service that people are buying into? Then there's the strength of our brand, and then there's the customer experience. So you know all this stuff already. The grid just puts it in a way that makes it kind of easy to work through and structure your thinking. So to bring this to life and kind of get on with the helpful stuff, let's just go through a really simple example showing how some kind of local businesses, maybe the ballet studio that my wife goes to or the local bar that I like to go to, have been affected by this, and you'll see that it spans across the whole grid. So the government, especially where we are in California, have said you've got to stay at home, right? And what that does straight away is it raises a tremendous barrier for anyone that's a physical kind of retail or premises-based business, because customers literally can't go there, right? That's a fundamental problem. What that has meant is that with the shops shut and everyone staying at home, you can't acquire or really easily retain any customers because everyone's staying at home and they can't come to your shop. So your customer base basically goes to zero, and with that your sales volumes go to zero as well. Now at the same time, you've still got to pay your fixed costs, right? You've got to pay your rent, you've got to pay your staff, you've got to pay your bills and that kind of thing. And what this has really done is it has really threatened people's cash position. In fact, a lot of businesses that have a really short runway have already gone pop, really small cash reserves. They've kind of been wiped out immediately because they don't have cash reserves, or they've had to desperately try and cut these fixed costs in order to stay in business. But what you can see, and this is a crucial point whether we're talking about this crisis, whether we're talking about anything else in business, is that a change in one area, in this case, this regulation that's been put into force and the need to obviously keep everybody safe, has resulted in these barriers, and it's kind of cascaded all around the whole grid and caused a lot of problems. Now let's look at how people are responding. If you were to do that analysis, the first thing you'd say is, well, we've got to find a way to get those adoption barriers down, right? And the way that we're probably going to have to do that is we're going to need to change our proposition slightly. Maybe we're going to need to start selling online, or we're going to start communicating with our customers in a different way, or we're going to have to deliver stuff to them, whatever it might be. And we're going to probably need to improvise some kind of new customer experience around that. An absolutely crucial piece that we've got to do is we've got to tell people what we're doing. I mean, this is something that a lot of businesses have bungled. They're not communicating clearly with their customers about what's happening. So we've got to tell them. We've got to tell them that we're still opening, or that we've got a response, or that we're putting something together for them to try and keep those customers interested, or maybe even acquire some new ones, and build some volume back into our business. So going back again to my wife's ballet studio, they've started doing lessons online really quick, straight out of the gate. They're onto it, trying to keep some kind of volume coming through into the business. At the same time, we might look at, well, how can we dial those fixed costs down or cut back on them in some way? We might renegotiate with some of our suppliers and say, look, some money is better than none. If we go pop, you ain't getting a thing. And also we might investigate what government help is available, that's not a word, available for our business, looking through the regulations at a state level or federal level. There's all sorts of packages that different governments are putting into place to help with people. And through some combination of this, just make sure that we try and kind of stem the bleeding. So what I'm basically trying to reinforce here is that any response that we make has got to be based on a total understanding of the grid. And when we start to look at it in this structured way, maybe a bit more clear-headed, we might spot opportunities that can help us or even help other people in a way that maybe we wouldn't before. So the flip side of this is to show, using the same model, an incredible response, a little bit of inspiration from Dyson in terms of creating this ventilator. And again, you see elements scattered from across the grid coming into play here. So Dyson, who you probably know, make hand dryers, vacuum cleaners, that kind of thing. They've got a lot of IP and expertise in motors and things that move air around. That's protected IP, falls under legal protection there, trade secrets, patents, that kind of thing. They really are experts in this. And also, the way that they have been able to stay inimitable in their particular markets is just moving faster than everybody else. We call this competitor lag here. They're really good at staying ahead of the competition. By the time somebody's ripped off their vacuum cleaner, they're onto the hand dryer, then they're onto the hair dryer, and so on and so forth. And the reason that they're able to do that is because they have this very responsive and adaptive culture built into the business by the founder, still private, still founder owned, which helps a lot. So they're not kind of wading through a lot of complexity and rigidity to get stuff done. They're very responsive and adaptive. Now, what they've observed, and I think that the Prime Minister may have put in a phone call or something, there is a massive shortage of ventilators in the UK and elsewhere that people really need for these people who are really sick, and they're going to save people's lives. So there's massive demand in this category, and there's a real shortage of supply. So what Dyson have been able to do, they've designed a solution in partnership presumably with some other people, a product, this co-vent ventilator, in just 10 days. It can be made quickly and efficiently at scale. Again, we're looking at this box down here. They've been able to produce or get to work on an initial run of 15,000 units up here, and they're planning on donating 5,000 of those to international efforts to help with this, which of course isn't going to do their brand any harm at all. So those are a couple of examples of how businesses might be affected or how they're responding. What I'd like to just go through quickly now is, well, how do I actually use the grid to help me? What about me in my situation? And what you've basically got to do is you've got to work through each of those elements, asking yourself questions that relate to each of the parts of the grid, and use that as a way to kind of brainstorm or come up with structured ideas. So to give you just a couple of examples, we'll just go through three. If you're facing barriers to people doing business with you, the first thing that you've got to ask is, well, what are those barriers? Are they financial, that people don't have any money? Are they physical, that people can't come to you, they've got to stay at home? Is it some kind of disruption to our distribution or our supply chain? Or is it just that, with everybody being stuck at home, there are just easier alternatives to buying your product or using your service because they're kind of housebound and we're kind of naturally a little bit lazy. Jumping across to talk about awareness, which is something that I've seen in particular a lot of businesses haven't done a great job on. You can ask yourself, look, are we providing the right information to people at the right time so that they know what's going on? Are we setting very clear expectations with people about whether we're open, whether we're closed? Is it somewhere in between? What's going on with any current orders that they have? Are there going to be delays? Are we helping other people to manage their situation by setting clear expectations? And of course, are we focusing on the most important stuff, right? Are we answering people's most pressing questions, or are we just kind of rambling on about a load of nonsense that people don't really care about? Another thing, absolutely crucial, I did a podcast on this a few days ago, which kind of spurred me to do this, spurred me to create this much bigger video, because there was a pretty good response to that. Cash is becoming a major problem for businesses. So the first thing that you've really got to look at in light of the rest of the grid, if you're suffering, I mean, some businesses are experiencing record demand, but let's not worry too much about them. How much cash do you have, and how long are you going to last at your current burn rate? If liquidity is becoming a problem for your business, what options do you have that are available to you in terms of helping with that? So is there government aid? Can we sell part of our business? Can we take out a loan? Is there a way that we can cut our costs? Should we be renegotiating some of those costs with suppliers and that kind of thing? Now, to help you out with this, and this is the key point, what we've actually done, we worked over the weekend, the last few days to put this together, is we put together this battle plan that actually has all of those questions in for each of the elements of the grid. It's really simple. It goes through these elements of the model, and it just says, okay, these are some valuable questions that you can ask yourself. It's not exhaustive. We kind of tried to limit it to a few, so it's not kind of overwhelming. What questions do I have? Is this a problem for my business? And what ideas can we come up with in order to combat that? And because it covers all the different elements of the grid, doesn't really matter what kind of business you're in, whether you're a startup, whether you're a kind of local village business, whether you're a global company, you can still use the same kind of set of templates and worksheets that you can download up here. This is the link. It's all free. There's no paywall. There's no sign up or any of that nonsense. And then it concludes with a reminder of what these different elements are and why they're important if you kind of get stuck along the way. So that's free to download as of now. Here's what to do then. First, go to the site and you can download this free worksheet pack. Then, I apologize, my keyboard's a little bit noisy, by the way, so sorry for that. Look at each of the elements of the grid one by one. Just go through them, answering the questions that we've kind of put together for you. Use those questions to help formulate a response to the problem. Get to work on the most promising kind of opportunities or the most pressing challenges. And finally, if there's anybody who you think might benefit from taking a look at this, or you think it might help them, please share it. I mean, when we started thinking about this, our basic guidance was, well, look, if it helps one business stay afloat for a little longer, if it helps a handful of people keep their jobs, then it's worth it for us. We think potentially it can help a lot of people get some clarity on the situation. You can go back and revisit it when the environment is changing and kind of update your response, and that's why we've put it together for you. So just to wrap up, this is the link. It's methodical.io/battle-plan. We really hope that it's going to help you out, your friends, other people you know who are running businesses. Obviously, we're all in this together. We wish you the best of luck and stay safe. Thank you so much.